Lee.
Happy thoughts, happy thoughts. Send good thoughts to my...
This meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Oh, that's a good sign. So like I said, it's a 20-second delay. So, oh, here we go. We are live. Yay. All right. Okay. Fantastic. Hi, Facebook land. We're going to wait a couple minutes and let people come in to the meeting, join us here. I am going to try and do this on 2 devices, which is totally possible to do. There we go. Lorna Jarian says we're on. Yay. We have 7 people watching us so far, so we're going to just have a couple more minutes before we get started here. Oof, man, that took a minute for me to make my computer.
Can lose 3 people and only have 4.
There we go. Oh yay, people are joining us. It's very exciting. Very exciting. Hold on.
We better get more people in the trumpet section.
There we go. I think we will. There we go. Jerry is watching with us, our new assistant conductor. Hi, Jerry.
Jerry.
Yay. And Justin Bruns is watching. Multiple screens.
How do I look to myself?
There we go. Yay. Okay, we're getting some lovely people watching with us. All right, I think we can get this thing started. Okay. Hello, Facebook land. My name is Emily Briebach, and I am your host for Backstage Banter. Today, we have our lovely front of the first violins. Can I call you guys the Concertmasters? Is that okay to do?
You can call us whatever you want.
Okay. That's what I'm going to do. I'm here with our Concertmasters. We have David Kucheron, Justin Bruns, and Junqing Lin. I would encourage any of you who are watching us on Facebook to please ask your questions in the comments, and I will send it over to these guys to answer. Yay. Oh, we have a whole bunch of people watching with us. This is awesome. Okay. So to start off with, first of all, cheers, y'all. Cheers to going back to work. Clink.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been an exciting week. This is our first week back at work, with all of the spacing and the plexiglass and the COVID tests and all that craziness. How has it been for you guys? David, how's it been from your perspective?
It's been strange, good, weird, a lot of mixed feelings. We're sitting really spaced out on stage, and we're gonna have to deal with problems we have never thought we would deal with before. But it's really exciting to do something and trying to do things and record and see my colleagues, and that part has been really wonderful. It's been a lot of adjusting going on, figuring out how to work around the spacing issue, and I think it's improving and we're getting better, so that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, it feels very strange. I mean, I have plexiglass between me and Zach Boding, who's playing principal, who was playing principal on the Beethoven this week. So even though we're 6 feet apart, which is farther than usual, there's that plus the plexiglass, but it still does feel so much better than just sitting in my home studio and playing, playing etudes and scales and long tones by myself. Justin, how has it been for you?
It's been great. I actually, I had quite a large amount of anxiety about going back, not only because of like pandemic concerns, but just what it would feel like to be playing so far apart. And honestly, I think it went far more smoothly than I ever thought it would, especially from the get-go. And to my surprise, it felt great to play with everybody. I know there's like distance, but it was still really nice. Especially, I mean, the first piece I rehearsed was the Tchaikovsky Serenade. So it was great. I don't know if all of Facebook land knows that we have very shortened sessions together in an effort to stay safe. So we have 90 minutes together, and I don't know if it's just because it's more compact, but it feels like my brain juice is being sapped to the max. At the end of 2 of those, I am completely exhausted.
Yeah. Justin, can you explain a little bit what it looks like visually on stage? Because I don't think nobody has seen us yet. We just finished recording our first subscription concert, which will be aired next week at some point. But can you explain what it looks like on stage?
Sure. We are using the entire stage, basically, even though we are using no more than 35 musicians at a time. Each string player is on their own stand. So we don't share stands, we don't turn pages for each other. And we're 6 feet apart in any direction. And then woodwind and brass players who have to use breath in their instruments are sitting even farther apart. I think it's 10 feet from the person that would be in front of you. And is it also, Emily, is it 10 feet or 6 feet between to the left and right?
Left to right, it's 6 feet. 6 feet left to right, but there's plexiglass between us also to like mitigate some of the aerosols.
Between the winds and brass players.
And to the front of the winds, I think it's 10 feet.
Yeah. So if you blow into your instrument, there's 10 feet in front of the next person in front of you. So trumpets are even farther back. And horns.
Yeah. Junching, how's it been for you this week?
It's been, I echo all the sentiments of David and Justin. I will say, and I had this experience doing some chamber music over the summer because we did some kind of limited outdoor chamber music things, which outdoors in Atlanta in July is something else. Had 3 concerts canceled at the Botanical Garden because of rain, and then finally got out there and it felt like it was raining still. So that was a problem, but it was, you know, after having done this, since I'm the old guy in this group, this is my 32nd season, and having taken it for granted so long, I never thought I would actually miss just, I mean, I love my colleagues, but I never thought I would miss playing or interacting with them, even though there's new, 6 feet, plus mass, plus, so you can't really read a person's face. A lot of times you can't understand what they're trying to say to you. But I really, there have been moments in the last couple of months where I've gotten to play after not having gotten to play with people where I was like, oh yeah, this is why I got into this. This is why I like playing the violin, not because I want to play it by myself, but because I like playing with other people. So that's been, I mean, that's been really, really nice to get to. And what Justin has said and David both about how intense the hour and a half is now, it's amazing. I know we're not supposed to talk about orchestra problems, but one thing that we had a problem with maybe was a lot of kind of extraneous talking on stage during rehearsals, and like none of that. It's amazing. So it's been like almost embarrassingly clear what's going on. So
yeah, there's no chit chatting when there's masks and like 40 feet between you.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, absolutely. For those just joining us on Facebook, please feel free to ask any questions you might have for these guys in the comments, and I will relay your questions to them. So let's back up a little bit. So we haven't seen each other in person since March. It's been 6 full months. What have you guys been up to? Where have you been? I know some of you have been traveling. David, why don't we start with you?
I haven't traveled much. As soon as the virus started getting worse in March, I put my parents on a plane back to Norway. They spend their winter months usually in Florida and Atlanta. And so they were back in Norway in about mid-June. when it was clear we're not doing anything with the symphony over the summer, I got on a plane back to Norway and spent 2.5 months there with them in the house that I grew up in, and they still live there. And help them. They're getting a little older, so they require a little bit more help. And I started educating myself on a couple of different topics. I'm now been taking down some big trees with a chainsaw and got all kinds of gear for that, and been just fixing things around the house and the sailboat engine and the car engine, and just the different stuff that I haven't normally had time to, but I was always interested in doing. And
Did you work on engines before? Are you a car guy?
I like cars. I've been known to like a car too. Yes. Um, so I'm interested in that. And we have a Saab 9.3 from 2004, which needed a radiator replacement in the front, and it took me a whole day, but I managed to replace that. So that was fun.
Nice. So what was it like in Norway?
I got back here Norway was nice. I mean, I'm from there. I grew up there, so it was nice to be home. And we live a little bit outside Oslo, so it's kind of isolated anyway. So it's a perfect place to kind of be isolated from the world.
Naturally, socially distant.
Yeah, naturally. That's how most of the people in Norway grew up. We're used to it. We went sailing for a week. I love sailing, and I grew up sailing, so we went sailing for a while. That was really nice. Yeah, it's a different country than here, and I enjoyed being there this summer. I came back here end of August, and got a couple of COVID tests, all negative, and yeah, it's good to be back in business and play.
Yeah, for sure. Junching, how about you? What did you do this summer?
Well, I was here. I had I'm the one person on this Facebook Live that has children, and so I had to deal with a college sophomore who had to come home, and then a high school senior who had his senior year, I mean, sorry, I might use a bad word. It really sucked. I mean, it was, he goes to one of the private schools in the area, and all the senior traditions that he had been looking forward to were taken away from him. And so we had to deal with that for the first couple of months, online learning, I live in a house in Inman Park, and it wasn't quite big enough for all four of us to distance and get work done sometimes. And sometimes it was great. I mean, obviously I love my family, but there was a little bit too much togetherness sometimes.
I think that's a feeling a lot of people can probably relate to.
Yeah. And so so then we spent a lot of the summer wondering about whether they were going to get to go back to school, whether Nicholas, my son, got into a college in California, and whether he was going to get to go to California. Newsflash, he didn't get to go. So he's been online. My daughter Emma actually is in school in Saratoga Springs, New York. She actually got to go back to school. New York made her quarantine for 2 months, so 2 weeks, and so she was in a hotel room for 2 weeks, not allowed to leave the hotel room.
Oh wow, that's serious.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought, hey, 2 weeks in a hotel, how bad could it be? I got internet, I got the TV, and my daughter had a hard time. So and so she's at school, but most of her classes are still online. So kind of comparing their college experience to our college experience is really something. So I was here, and I was hot and worked in the yard, and my yard looks a little better than it usually does. So that's about it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, we have Kelly O'Connor who's watching. She says hi to everybody. Hi, Kelly.
Yeah.
Hi, Kelly.
We also have Laura Najarian who says, David, she needs a new battery in her car and she'll make you a cocktail if you can replace it for her. Just so that's
What kind of
out
car
there.
does she have?
There's a RAV4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that can be expensive to replace if you go out. Batteries are really only like $60, $70, $80, and I'll be happy to change it for her.
Wow. David Kushran, man of many talents. That's awesome.
Well, just in case this music career doesn't work out, you know.
Car mechanic. There you go. Justin, how about you? What were you doing this summer, or for the more than the summer, the 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us really didn't know how long things would go on at the beginning, and at the beginning I was waiting to just kind of find out if we could go, if it would be possible to go back to work. But when it started to seem pretty clear that that was going to be a while, I decided to do a really hard quarantine here in my house, like not see anybody, not go to grocery stores, so that I could drive to Colorado, where I grew up and where like all of my family is basically. And so I spent all summer in Colorado with my family, my grandmother, my mom, siblings, nieces and nephew. It was great. I loved it.
That's a lot. How many of your family members are there? How many siblings do you have?
I have 3 siblings, and
Oh, wow.
everybody lives very near to each other. And so most of them are working from home. So it was actually very safe to pod together. And I have a cousin who lived in New York for many years, who with her husband moved back. So once they had quarantine, they sort of joined the pod. It was great. I mean, there was always something to eat. Somebody was all the time, and so, usually it was me or my mom, my grandma. But, you know,
What were you cooking?
Anything that sounded good. What's really great about where they live in Colorado is it's like in a farm community where like my family really has been for forever. And so even like within walking distance, like a 3/4 of a mile is a farmer's market, like a street side stand, whose owner is a friend of my mom's, and there's always produce in there from their fields. There's a really great strain of corn from Colorado that just doesn't need any butter. It's like magical, pops in your mouth. And there's like peaches from the western slope of Colorado and cantaloupe. It's like really fun. So like anything fresh, and then anything you can supplement with that.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I want to learn more about the magic corn that
Yeah.
Justin was.
It's funny because my dog is addicted to it, and the second he heard anybody take a bite, he was like up on the leg begging in very rude, bad doggy manners. But it's fine.
It's the small ones, they get away with a lot. The small dogs.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do know indeed. Yeah, for me too. I usually am traveling over the summer and playing in places, but not cooking for myself. I work at the Brevard Music Center in the summer, so I'm there for 7 weeks, like eating cafeteria food with the students and just generally not cooking for myself. So it was a really nice change of pace to be able to use a bunch of like summer vegetables, like things that were actually in season. That was a nice thing for sure. We have lots of people who are interested in the car stuff. David Breitberg says you just need a 10M spanner. I don't know. I'm not a car person. Is that a car or is that, I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Millimeter spanner.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
See, Laura, there's plenty of people in the orchestra who can help you with your car battery. We have one lovely person who says it's good to see you, Svetlana Ekisheva. I'm probably butchering that name. Who says, good to see you. We miss you and the live performances. Do you miss us, your audience? Yes.
Yes, we missed
Yeah.
audience a lot. You know, if it's one thing that this virus has taught us is that, you know, we are learning the pieces, the repertoire, practicing our parts, all that stuff. But it needs to come alive to somebody that's in the audience to hear it. And without the audience, it doesn't feel like there is a reason for us to do that. So if there's one thing it's taught us is how dependent and how important the audience is to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and truthfully, the whole reason we got into playing music was for the adulation. So I think yes, we really miss the audience and miss the kind of energy that audiences bring to performances and to us. So
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. It is very weird to end a piece and like have, put yourself into it and for there just to be dead silence. It's a very weird feeling. My husband and I did a Zoom recital for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And it was the same thing. We played, a bunch of duets and then we would finish and look at the screen and there's all these people doing this, but we couldn't hear it. It's just a very weird thing to to play into the void. We do this because we love playing for people.
Yeah, it's very strange, this recording session we did this week. It's very strange to sit there at 11 in the morning in the full tails and gowns and everybody's dressed up and the hall is totally empty. And I was kind of try to, in my head, imagine that the hall is packed and playing for imaginary people, but it's a really tricky thing to do.
Yeah, I found myself in the recordings like not treating it like it's really a recording for a CD. I was feeling like I need to be playing like when the people are watching, like they're watching in the moment that I'm playing it. And so it was interesting to feel some sort of connection or anticipation of that again while it was all happening.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Denise Dumais, who said, so good to see you all. What kind of music has been resonating with you during the Troubles? Have you guys been listening to anything that's really spoken to you? David, why don't we start with you?
I have been kind of enjoying Silence. And I haven't been listening to that much music, to be honest. There are times I just kind of like not having any noise or sounds or anything. And being back in Norway, it's very isolated where we're living, so it's very quiet. And one of the things I really like about it is that we wake up in the morning and you don't hear anything except the birds. And that is, to me, something that's very precious. And I think as traveling musicians and being in big cities, it's something that I miss. So there's been times I haven't been listening much to music. Sorry to disappoint.
No, I understand. Like having the calm and listening to the silence is definitely something that I miss from some of the places that I usually go in the summers. I was in Atlanta all summer too, so I didn't get a whole lot of.
I was not missing the local leaf blower guy at the house. The leaf blowing situation in Midtown Atlanta has gone out of control. I mean, it's like one guy blowing one little piece of leaf around for like an hour, nothing's happening, and then it rains 20 minutes later, and it's the one leaf is back again. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you. Justin, how about you? Is there anything you've been listening to that's been resonating with you, silence or otherwise?
I have found it to be very interesting seeing exactly how organizations have created output, and it's been like a learning experience, I think, for everybody, because that's all we do. But I also, it's been interesting watching young kids with release content on social media, and because it's cool. They know what they're doing more than I feel like I know what I'm doing. But it's been fun watching this guy named Alexi Kinney, who's like a fantastic violinist, who's quite young, and Julia Bullock is a soprano from the Bay Area who's, my gosh, she's a powerful artist. And then honestly, I've been pretty selfish and listened to really geeky violin things. It's been interesting to have enough time to actually absorb and observe. And it's not always about like the superstar violinist that I really care about, because it's like not really applicable to everyday playing. But it's been really fun. Like if, let's say I want to listen to Izai 5, I will literally listen to 50 Izai 5s that I can find, because it was like a weird vacuum of time, and it's been great.
Nice. Junqing, how about you?
You know, I was thinking while Justin was talking, actually, because, you know, some of us tried to do these kind of online video streaming things, record one part and send it off to your friends and try to do it. And boy, that really is terrible. Sorry. I mean, we tried to do the best we could. I had a funny situation. A lot of people in Atlanta probably know what Franklin Pond is. It's a chamber music program for high schoolers and middle schoolers. And there's a competition that's generally at the end of the year in May. Of course, this May, we couldn't hold the competition like we normally did. So we asked everybody to submit videos of with their groups, and they had to record them separately and things like that. And the kids' submissions were really great. And we decided that the faculty or whatever, the pros, should try to do something. And so 4 of us tried to put together a movement of a Haydn quartet. And if it's possible for your phone to blow up from cursing, that's what was happening. I mean, that was something. So I'm glad we're together. I'm glad we get to do something in real time with each other. In terms of, I mean, I am actually not a huge music listener also. This is going to sound like such a cliche, but I actually did this. I actually like practice Bach for, you know, a little bit every day, just to revisit my past instead of just like trying to scramble to prepare what I needed to prepare for the week. It was nice to just, I mean, I kind of sucked at Bach too, but it was good that I had the time to just be by myself and revisit some of those things and then try stuff. I did not try Izai 5 though. Maybe I should try that.
So fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Wait,
that's a good peep.
Playing or listening? That's
no, I like playing. Oh.
Well, that ties in nicely to another question we had. We had a question from Lee Sheehan, who says, have you all found yourselves practicing more or practicing less during all of this? Any tips on motivation? Also miss all of you. Man, the motivation, that's the key. That was real hard for me, at least. Justin, why don't we start with you?
Hi, Lee. I think this whole thing has been a very personal experience for everyone, and everyone has dealt with it differently, or needed different things. And I think the first thing to just, you know, is just to be okay with it. And in my case, when we went dark, March 12th or whatever, I found that I needed some serious downtime. Like I couldn't even think about playing. And when you work full-time all the time and you travel and do extra things and you teach and you play chamber music and you're on committees, there is sort of a fundamental exhaustion that you ignore or you get used to. And when it's taken away, in my case, I was exhausted, like down deep on the inside, as far down as you can get. And I needed some time. I don't think I could have done well if I had to keep practicing. And I think it's great that some people really needed it. But what happened is, once I realized I was so tired, dead tired, I use time that I would be practicing all the time to think more about what is meaningful about playing, and what charges me, what gets me going, um, without performances, and what is important to me when I am performing. And about that time when I was getting to Colorado, I just started very carefully and thoughtfully practicing with no goal except to sound better than I thought I could sound. And I don't, that's an ongoing moving target always. And then there were some projects, some requests like from the symphony and other places to record some things, not just like Hollywood Squares group things, but some solo performances that were really really demanding, and really illuminating, where you were forced to play straight through once and kind of nail it as hard as you can. And I think that actually was really good for my playing. And even after those projects stopped, I still kept recording myself kind of throughout the rest of the summer. And that led me to learn things that I had wanted to learn or have found really intriguing in the interim. There was also this thing hanging over the head, like, what if we never go back to live performances? Like, what can I be prepared to do? So I think it was like a big, deep cycle for me, but really beneficial. And once I did start practicing, it was like really interesting to have a different awareness of different parts of my body when I'm playing, that, and how like, oh, I'm doing that. I'm like, why won't I let that go day in and day out? So it was like good to just reset. So sorry for the long answer.
No, that's great. Like you.
Sorry,
Does somebody else want to go?
yeah, David?
Sorry. Yeah, David, sorry, my internet went out for a second. Hi, hello. David, how about you? Do you have, what was your practicing like during the 6 months?
Actually, hearing Justin talk, it reminded me actually of a lot of that same thing that I was going through. I don't think I realized how exhausted and kind of burned out I was until a couple of weeks into the quarantine started. And I obviously miss playing on stage and practicing and seeing my colleagues, but also I think in a weird way, I felt it could be a blessing in disguise, in the sense that I could catch my breath again. I've never taken like more than just a couple of days off from practicing, I think, in the last 30 years, maybe a week tops. And it's been teaching me a little bit about the importance of saying no when people ask, can you do this, can you do that? My instinct is always to say yes, and I think a lot of musicians are kind of they're taught this since they're kids. Like, somebody asks you to do something, you just say yes, because it's always an opportunity and it's always something that'll be good for you. And it's kind of been teaching me a little bit this past 6 months that I also have to take time and think about my own health. And I'm not 20 years old anymore, and as you get older, you will need more time. And also coming back, I took a good break over the summer for a month and a half. I mean, I did play some Bach, actually. That's what I did too, Judge. That's funny you mentioned that. That's kind of vitamins for me. And coming back after that, I was thinking this is an opportunity for me to kind of start a little bit with a clean slate and kind of fix a couple of things that I wanted to work on, because you kind of start as a refresh, like you start new in a way, and it's easy to fix a couple of things. So I started really slow, and it was nice to have the time and not worry about, oh, I got to play this tomorrow, I got to play this next week, I got to play this next month, I got to look at this, I got to look at that, I got to look at that. Constantly in that mode, and just say, hey, I have the whole day. I can spend 2 hours on studies today. I can play Dante for an hour. I can play Gavinier for 2 hours. And it felt really good to be able to do that and really work on basics. And I've been enjoying that. I'm trying to make the best of this strange, weird situation that we're all put in. And to answer the question, what motivates me, I would say playing music, practicing makes me happy. It's not an obvious thing. It's like, oh, I play 10 minutes, oh, I suddenly become happy. But, I practice every day. You feel like you're accomplishing something. And when you're away from music for a while, you realize really how much you miss it and how much it's part of me as a human being, as a person. It's in a way incomplete without it. But as with everything, finding the right balance, I think, is the key. And this last 6 months have really helped me. And I hope in the future I'll be better at balancing things.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective to take away from all of this. Junqing, how about you? You said you were playing Bach. We have a message here from David Breitberg who says, "Since I retired, I only play Bach."
Well, I can believe that. And I want to say hi to David Breitberg and to Lee. Also, if for people that don't know, Lee is a former ASYO kid, violinist who I've known since she was about 12 years old. And she is now a lawyer. So I was going to make a lawyer joke, but I guess I probably shouldn't do that. I have done some practicing for myself. I did go through the range of emotions that Justin went through and David went through. My perspective is a little bit different because I'm older than them and I've been doing this a really long time and wondering, kind of seeing the end of my career or at the end of time. I am one of those people that worries that my one day, like my playing is going to be so completely gone, and that my colleagues are going to turn around and look at me and I'll be that colleague, and I
was looking at you today. I was turning around. You
yeah,
didn't.
I opened myself up for that. But if I'm to somebody that practices Gavinier, someone that practices Gavinier for 2 hours, and he has some serious problems, if you ask me. But anyway, it's been it's been very interesting to revisit. I've been in the Atlanta Symphony for 32 years, so and I like to think I have certain benchmarks for myself as to when I think if there's ever a point that I should hang it up. I have these kind of little benchmarks in my head. Some of them are playing related, some of them are just kind of orchestra related. And so I think it was a chance to reset, like the other guy said, and think about what's really important. And it really is, playing with other people is really important to me and is still really important to me. And playing for audiences is really important to me. And so I don't want that to be taken away from me any sooner than it needs to be.
Then you better spend 2 hours a day practicing Gavinier.
I recommend Gavinier. I was introduced to Gavinier just like 2 years ago, and I can't believe how awesome it was. And that's not nerdy, but that
it was the only etude.
Those are awesome etudes.
They are amazing.
Yeah.
He was.
I've always been a Rode and a Daunt guy.
They're great.
Those are baby Gavinier.
They're awesome etudes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We had one question from an ASYO alum who asks what's happening with ASYO this year. Jerry has commented a little bit or responded a little bit in the comments. But Justin, can you talk a little bit about what's going on with ASYO? This is the youth orchestra, who, for those who don't know all the acronyms.
Yeah, and Junqing, jump in whenever I'm not saying things thorough enough or correct enough. There is a youth orchestra this season, and the deadline for applications has passed quite recently. So the auditions were via video this year, and this year there will be a hybrid program, or either you can play in person or participate in online sessions for youth orchestra. The youth orchestra will follow as strict and safe protocols that the symphony is following, tests, temperature checks, limited amounts of players, widely spaced for limited amounts of time. Is that right, Junqing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all these schools and youth orchestras and orchestra programs in general are having to reimagine what life is like now, where you have to really worry. I mean, maybe young people don't get as sick, but young people have parents and grandparents, and this is scary. So yeah, I mean, I think Justin summed it up pretty well. One thing that I thought was very interesting in our discussions with Jerry, the new youth orchestra, Jerry, the new ASYO conductor, and aside, because the former ASYO conductor was also named Jerry, so now it's a little it's Jerry too. Anyway,
Jerry 2.0.
And they look so much alike. So it's one thing that I found very interesting was it sounded like a lot of youth orchestras in the country are going to collaborate on some of their materials, and so I think that might have a real interesting effect on the online experience with and especially since a lot of kids go to camps, or they used to go to camps where they met kids from other parts of the country, and to maybe have the chance to interact in that way, I think would be kind of cool, to have a youth orchestra virtual prom between all the various youth or something. Now, anyway, so I think as with what we've had to deal with the symphony, in that the protocols and what is deemed safe in the pandemic seems to change every day. I think, youth orchestra is also having to adapt every day to something slightly different. So hopefully, I mean, youth orchestra will be this year, and it will be something, and I hope it's something that's good. If it's not as fulfilling as it may have been in other years, it won't be because we didn't try to make it really something excellent for everybody involved.
I actually think there's a lot of potential for enrichment activities actually being more thoughtful and more helpful when it comes down to it. And I think there are ways in which students can interact with coaches and mentors that might be even more helpful than just saying hi in the hallway and following instructions in coaching. But so I know it's really complicated, but I do think the safety of everyone is super important, but also everyone is really having hard discussion how to make it worthwhile. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have another question here. It says, what is your best memory from an ASO concert? Do you guys have any memories that come to mind? These are, I did ask, I just to lift the curtain or pull back the curtain a little bit. I did send some questions to these guys before we started. And one of them is, is there any funny or ridiculous or embarrassing things that have happened to you on stage? Which I ask every time we do this, and I love the answers. But this is asking specifically for a best memory. Anybody have any fantastic ASO concerts that they've played? I remember my first time playing at Carnegie Hall. We did the Britain War Requiem with, I can't remember what her name. Her name is very long and very Russian sounding, the singer with like that big, beautiful voice. And I remember her just like tears like streaming down her face during the sound check just because of how everything was. That's one of my favorite ASO memories. Do you guys have anything like that? David, let's start with you.
I have lots of memories. Like I don't know. I don't rank them. I have some funny memories. I remember like one of the first weeks I played, and I think maybe second or third week, and maybe Justin and Junch remember this better than I do. But the conductor got so involved and really knocked all the music on my stand over in the concert. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah. Was it during a Stravinsky piece?
That's very possible, but like William was just like on the floor, like picking up music, and I was like trying to memorize what we were supposed to be playing, and I was just like, does this happen like all the time? Is this a normal thing? I didn't know. I was like 3 weeks in, you know.
There's a danger to being on the front stand, for sure. It's batons, music, and sweat and spit, and Lord knows what else.
Yeah, and things have been flying. Like batons have sometimes come out of hands and gotten stuck in different places around the stage.
Oh no!
But that was a memory because I was so new. It was like my second or third week, so I do remember that very clearly.
Hey, David, you're gonna have to keep your nuts quiet. Sorry, somebody had it.
Actually, gummy bears, and they're really good.
It says nuts on the bag.
It does
I
say
know.
nuts on the bag.
But there's no nuts in here.
You ate all the nuts.
I don't know what to tell you.
I did prepare for Emily's question. So
Yeah.
does it
I
have
love it.
a memorable from an artistic standpoint?
Either one. I mean, I think at this point, if you have your favorite funny story, bring it on. I love these.
This was long before David and Justin were in the orchestra. It was my second year in the orchestra. In fact, David and Justin may not have been born at this particular moment in the late 80s, or maybe they were not even started the violin yet. It was my second year in the orchestra, and I was sitting on the first stand with Martin Chalafour, who is now the principal concertmaster of the LA Philharmonic, but was here and was a classmate of mine at Curtis. And we were on tour in Cleveland. And if for people that remember the late 80s, the relationship between Atlanta and Cleveland was very, very strong back then, because Joel Levy had been the resident conductor of the Cleveland Orchestra. He was now the new music director of the Atlanta Symphony. So we were playing a concert in Cleveland, and Martin Chalafour's and my teacher, David Cerrone, was president of the Cleveland Institute at the time. And I had gone to the Cleveland Institute as a graduate student. So literally, it's my second year in Atlanta. I was 3 years out of CIM, out of college. And Mr. Cerrone took Martin and I up for dinner before the concert. And I remember this very distinctly. It was a 7:30 concert, which was its own weird thing. It was not at Severance Hall for whatever reason. It wasn't at Severance Hall.
Yeah.
We thought it was at this Circle Theater, and so we had, which is in that University Circle area, and we went to dinner kind of near the Cleveland Clinic, and Mr. Cerrone said, well, you know, if we get there at 7:10, is that enough time for you guys to change and get on stage? And we're like, fine. So we finish dinner, we get 7:10, we drive up to the Circle Theater, and there's nobody in the parking lot. And so he said, are you sure the concert's here? And so this, of course, is before phones and schedules on phones. I'm fumbling through my violin case looking for the tour itinerary so I can look up the address of where we're supposed to be. Turns out we're supposed to be at the State Theater, which is about 80 blocks away from where we pulled in at 7:10 for the 7:30 concert. So Mr. Cerrone drives down Euclid Avenue as fast as he can. We get there around 7:25, and the only way for Martin and I to get to the backstage area is through the audience. And so we're running through the audience at 5 minutes before the concert starts, and literally, like, every single Cleveland Orchestra member, every single CIM student, so Chen and Jay were at this concert. Josh Bell was the soloist. And I remember walking past all these guys I had gone to school with and all these people I'd studied with. And I'm like running, trying, and I obviously not changed. And we're the first band. And it was just like the most harrowing experience. I mean, I'm not allowed to swear, you told me, but
I told you can't swear.
that was a swearing moment. And I mean, the concert went fine. I think I was sweating the whole time, but it was fine. And it was,
Oh,
I hope I
man.
never do that again. I try to always be early now.
That is a literal nightmare. That sounds awful.
Yeah, that's gee, I wish this was an 8:00 concert. So
Right. Yeah. Justin, do you have any stories you want to share?
I mean, I think up front it's all about the E strings, right? Don't we pop like 5 or 6 a year?
Do tell, what does that
It
mean?
was like it's been unusually many like this last season. Something happened. I don't know.
it's always from the three of us. It's never from anybody else.
Wait, explain this. Like you guys are
The E string is the smallest string. It's usually just a piece of wire, and I don't know, if you catch it just right, it breaks.
Yeah.
And
I remember,
yeah,
just it's easy to break, and we're not dainty gentlemen. We have
think for yourself.
I was just trying to be nice and include you, Junching. No, I remember like was it Von Williams 4, where it was like the third line of the piece, it popped, and I was behind you on that one. And did Raymond take it out and put a new string on?
Well, he usually is the person that carries the extra strings.
So too, okay. I mean, now I have E string. You had an E string, but then I had a loop. I didn't have a loop end one.
Oh, sure.
No, it's just like really when you give it your all and you care so much about playing really loud on the E string, it will pop. When I was in college, I had very fine gold rimmed glasses, very thin, very lightweight, and I tend to get pretty schwitzy when I perform. And so like it became like a problem, and like a notorious problem at school, that they would just fall off. Like if I didn't have a rest to push them back up, they would fall off. And I started taping them with duct tape behind my ears. Barney might remember that actually. But the problem was I would get so schwitzy that the duct tape would come undone anyway, and they would still fall off. It was motivation to get contacts.
You could have worn one of those really super geeky, like behind the temple.
Yep, I sure could have done that. Mm-hmm.
That would have looked really nice.
I tell you.
We had somebody ask how often do you have to swap violins with a soloist? David, have you had that experience?
No, I've never. It's often that the soloist will like try my violin, I'll try his violin, but backstage or not when we're in the middle. I've had a request to borrow my bow a couple of times just because bows, like the hairs would go so quickly, or there would be some kind of difficulty with the bow, so I lent them my bow a couple of times. But so far, I don't think it's happening. I don't think our violin.
I mean, I've handed my violin to one of the concertmasters for broken strings a couple of times. I have lent it to Pinka Zuckerman. Did a concert with us many years ago, and he would come out without his violin for many bows, and then he would just pick up somebody's violin and play an encore on it. And my violin got used many times for one of those. I remember I was trying out a really nice bow actually, and he took it backstage and he said, "Hey, can I have this bow?" And I'm like, "No." It's like, I'll trade it for your Del Jesu in your case if you like. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
Justin, have you ever had to give your instrument away in a moment of panic in a concert?
I don't believe so. I don't remember that happening. I mean, I have seen them just walk off and put a new string on, which is fine.
Oh,
I
really?
had to do that
Yeah.
Mhm.
a couple of years ago.
That's when I
started.
had an E string, but it had the ball end, which I didn't realize.
Yeah, I had a loop end.
Yeah. I mean,
I
and
just walked off and changed the string and came back
Yeah.
and started over again.
Yeah,
I-
you're
I-
counting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I played Sibelius with a semi-professional orchestra, and it popped. The E string popped, and it was just obvious that it was the right decision to go change it.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Mhm.
Do you ever pop an E string?
Those who are not, who don't sit. No. I've done all sorts of horrible things, like broken reeds and all of that. But am I thankfully I'm not frozen. I might be frozen. I think I'm frozen.
Yeah,
No,
I,
This is fun.
you're there.
Oh,
Okay, there you are.
God.
I'm back. I'm.
You're back frozen.
You guys were all frozen. I didn't know if I'm. Yeah. Oh no.
you can always send us a question.
We break all sorts.
Well, while Emily's having problems, do we need to sing?
I'm back. I think I'm back.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I think with those lovely technical difficulties, I think that's going to bring us to the end of our hour. It's just about 9 o'clock. Thank you to everybody who was watching and who joined us this evening. Thank you to Justin and David and Junching for being such good sports and joining me on Backstage Banter. Feel free to leave questions or anything else in the comment section down there, maybe another section that you want to see on Backstage Banter, or some people you want to see us chat with. We'll be happy to try and strong arm them into doing this as well. Thanks again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.